Okay, so hello everyone, good day. So for today's session, we're going to have a continuation about our discussion last time. So it's all about varieties and registers of spoken and written language. Okay, so but before anything else, or before we will proceed, no, we will just have a short review about our previous discussion. So we have no cultural competence. So when we talk about cultural competence, it's all about your ability or our ability to understand and to appreciate that every country, or yes, every country has a different culture. So when we have that ability to understand that every country lahi-lahi gayud og culture, lahi-lahi og kanang beliefs, religions, or every people has different beliefs and religions, man. So if we have that ability to understand, so naatay what we call cultural competence. Alright? Next food is variety. So variety though, from the word itself, no? When we talk about variety, lahi-lahi, no? Ang lahi-lahi ta in terms of social, historical, as well as spatial. Okay? Then we actually have varieties of languages. Now we have the Pidgin, the Creole, the regional dialect, the minority dialect, and then the indigenized dialect. Alright, so when we talk about Pidgin class, now this is a new language which develops in situations where speakers of different languages need to communicate but do not share a common language. So kaning Pidgin, so katong for example, this actually start in a multilingual situation, no, wherein they need to communicate and interact with each other. So in order for them to understand, so they will mix their language, so they will simplify their language rather, and they will create a new code. Okay, so kanang code nga ilahang gihimo, so that's what we call Pidgin. Well, Pidgin class is actually no, a mixture of languages. Okay, so ma-create ni siya ang Pidgin kung i-mix ang tanang languages. For example, no, I know get. Meaning to say, when we talk about I know get, meaning to say about that is, wala ko kasabot. I don't understand. I don't understand what you're trying to say, or I don't get it. No, I know get. I didn't get what you're trying to say. So that's what we mean by that. So it is used to kanang mga people bitaw with different languages, in order for them to easily communicate with other people. So muna ilang i-simplify ang ilahang language. So wala nang magsagol-sagol, mag-mix ang ilahang language. And also put kaning Pidgin class is also, this is also um what we call a trading language. Kaning Pidgin, trading language ni siya ang Pidgin, kay kasagaran man ni siyang ma-use sa mga nawit trade-ups or tradings, or yeah. So ma-use gini siya kay lahi man ang ato ang kanang tao. For example, kung mag-trade ta ni, for example sa laing nasod, no, lahi-lahi ang ato ang ma-meet, and then we don't know how to spoke with them because of their language. So that's why mag-use ang uban og Pidgin language. Okay, so this is kaning Pidgin pod wala ni siya native speakers, so code lang gid ni kaayo ang Pidgin. Unlike Creole, kaning Creole is a Pidgin that becomes the first language of the children and the mother tongue of a community. So kaning Creole, so gitudlo na, no, gitudlo na sa bata. So katong Pidgin nga gitudlo sa mga bata, and then na siya sentence structure, na siya vocabulary, na grammars, or complete na ayahang thought sa sentence. So wala siya gitawag siya og Creole. So na siya native speakers ang Creole. Okay? So that's the difference between Pidgin and then the Creole. Alright, then next food is we have here, no, the regional dialect. So when we talk about regional dialect, no, this is not a distinct language, but a variety of language spoken in a particular area of a country. Alright, so for example, no, here in the Philippines, diba? In the case here sa ating Pilipinas, we have a lot of regions. So we have region 1, we also have region 2, we also have region 3, region 4, region 5, region 6, region 7, and so forth and so on. So in the case here sa ato ang lugar, since we are region 7, so diba, we talk, or our language or our dialect spoken was or is kuan kanang Bisaya or Cebuano, 'di ba? Kung kumato po tag region 1, ang ilahang sinultian po dito we have Pangasinense, Ilocano, 'di ba? So, mo na siya ang regional dialect. So, it means by region siya nga dialect. So, that's what we call regional dialect. So, it is a language spoken in particular area of the country. Alright? So, by the word itself, no? From the word itself, no? Regional. So, region. So, meaning by region, di siya nga dialect. Okay? Next, also, we have no minority dialect. So minority dialect, no, this is actually more on tribal language or ethnic language, no? Like kanang mga Mangyan, sa na siya Ifugao, Igorot, kana basta mga inana ang mga tribal language. So mo na siya what we call minority dialect. So gamay rush, wala gid siya sagul na other language, ilaha ra yung language ang ilahang ginayuse. Okay? And most probably sa mga ethnics na sila, mga Mangyan or sa pa na siyang mga ethnic groups diya, no? Mo na siya, mo na belong ng mga minority dialects. The next also we have here the last one, the last variety of language, we have the indigenized variety. So when we talk about indigenized variety, these are language spoken mainly as second language in ex-colonies with multilingual population. Okay, so kani siyang indigenized. So this is different no from minority dialect. So when we talk about indigenized variety, so if we have so once there are colonies in our countries and then we are still influenced by the language of those colonies or colonizers that we have, so then we're still using their language as a part of our communication, then that's what we call indigenized variety. So for example, kanang sanay ka ng uno, dos, tres, cuatro, diba? That's actually come from our colonizer, no, which are the Spaniards or the Spanish, diba? Gikan na siya Spaniards. Ang kanang uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco, diba? Ano pa? Enero, Pebrero. It's actually come from kuan man, Spanish man guro, kanang Enero, Pebrero nga kanang sa calendar nga word. No, and we're still using that right now, di ba? Kana uno sad no, uno, dos, tres. So that's also belong to indigenized variety kind of language. Then also pod ka ng Philippine English, di ba? So again, ang indigenized variety, so once there are colonies in our countries and we are still using their language, then muna siya what we call indigenized variety. Unlike minority dialect, so minority dialect is all about tribal man language. So there is no other language nga nasagol sa ilahang language or wala siya di siya gikan sa ex-colonies or mga colonizers ang ilahang language, only ilahang language ilahang views. Okay, the next pod we have here no register. So when we talk about registers class, this is actually no the level of communication that we have. So the atay different levels of communication in different circumstances, like for example no the we have the informality and then the formality of language. So pwede ta makigstorya sa laing-laing tao in an informal way. For example, in an informal way, pwede na ito magkastorya atong friend in a casual way baka ha, no? But napod tayo formal way of using language. So like not public speeches, sa school baka ha, or yeah, no? That's what we call register. So it is determined by factors as a social occasion, connects purpose and audience, and also uses language differently in different circumstances. So lahi-lahi na jutay lahi-lahi nga use sa ato ang language in different contexts or different situation or circumstances. Okay, that's what we call register, language registers. Okay, and there are actually 5 distinct registers now, according to Nerd Quiz 2018. So we have here the frozen, the formal, and then the consultative, and also the casual and intimate. All right, so we have here no of frozen. Okay, so frozen class, this refers to the historic language or communication that is indented to remain unchanged, like a constitution or a prayer. So example is the Holy Bible, the Philippine Constitution, the Bhagavad Gita, and as well as the Romeo and Juliet. So when we say frozen, these are the things or these are the right things that cannot be changed. Okay, so from the word itself na froze, so dili siya ma-change. So the way how you read it, an example na Holy Bible, The way how you read it now, it is just the same as how you read it a long time ago, diba? So that's what we call frozen registers of written language. And also kaning singing bitaw of the Philippine National Anthem, diba? How you sang it before, same ra gyapon lyrics. So kanang mga old nga songs, di ba? Same ra gyapon og lyrics gyapon until now. So frozen po na siya na belong. Then unsa pa kanang Miranda rights, di ba? Kamantay mo anang dakpon bitaw ang criminal class, no? Then mo ana dayon ang police nga you have the right to remain silent. Any statement you may be used for you or yes for you or against you in any court of law, blah, blah, blah. So, wala siya. So, that's, so Miranda rights is also an example of a frozen register. So, since the lines of it never change man, di ba, kasagaran mo, gina siya gina-repeat sa mga police when they, encounter criminals and then ilahang dakpon, no? Muna siya use sa police and judges throughout history. Another podcast is kaning Lord's Prayer. Diba? Kanang Our Father in Heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Diba? Diba kanang Lord's Prayer. So diba gibalik-balik naghapon nato. So before, until now, maorig hapon ang prayer. Wag hapon siya nausap. Okay? Another pod no kaning ni? Mga laws diri sa Pilipinas, mga rules. So, example po na siya sa frozen register. So, dili siya mausap sa kung saan mo pagbasa sa una ang mga lines. So, maura gyapon until now. So, that's what we call frozen or another term for it is static register. Akaning frozen. Okay? The next put class, no, we have the formal registers of language. So, these are used in professional, academic, or legal settings where communication is expected to be respectful, uninterrupted, and restrained. Slangs is never used and its contractions, no, not contradictions. Contractions are rare. So, okay, so now let's talk about professional, academic, or legal settings, no? So, of course, no, ang choice words good when we are talking uh, in a formal and a professional or academic setting. Of course, ang words nga to ang use is dapat jud is ganang very formal po siya, like kaning mga sermon, during sermon, public speeches, preaching, pronouncements of the judge baka, ano, so it should be formal good. So in that way, communication is expected to be respectful and interrupted and restrained. So we should also avoid use no the slang words, okay? So words by kaning mga commoner, ordinary people, like mga street words, mga jargons, no? So, dapat likayan na nato siya sa formal registers or yeah, sa formal setting. And another po no, kanang informal writing po di ay class, we should also avoid contraction of words like instead of using don't, yeah, you will simplify it into instead of using do not no you will simplify it into don't. Instead of using can't you will simplify it into cannot you will simplify it into can't. And then another part is kanang it's no you will it is, so you will simplify it into it, so imo siya i-contract ba, so we should avoid that one good. And also put using contractions within academic writing is not encouraged but siya kaning such as research paper no dili siya encouraged with ang pag-use ng mga contractions of word tungod kay it sounds informal man if you use that imo i-contract ang word imo mag-use kag don't sa imong research paper or yeah sa imong academic writing. So dapat you should spell it all out good ang words when you are writing formally. Spell dyan na nimo. Dili dyan ka magpa-shortcut di ano. So spell dyan na nimo tanan. Bahala ka pa sa what basa. I-spell out dyan na nato ang words. So that's what we call formal. Avoid ta anang shortcut. Okay? So these are the examples now. Formal language, TED Talks. Another is business presentations. TED Talks, mga public speeches. Business presentations, as we can see here in the screen. So we have here ila ang mga outfits, ila ang mga dressed ups very formal sa kaayo. Nakasuit jud sila. So mo na siya formal. And also Encyclopedia Britannica and Grey's Anatomy by Henry Gray. So, man siya formal. Dapat gid formal subject ang ato ang way of talking. Okay? Next, we have also the consultative. Okay? So, kaning consultative, no? So, this is somehow formal, but the way how you talk to your clients, yes, or yes, to your clients, it will vary as well, no? Magkusap-usap po siya. The professional ka, but di ba you are also using man the language of your client, okay? But there is certain limitation plus, no? So we have consultative use in conversation when they are speaking someone without who are specializing something, or yes, or who is offering advice baka ha. So the tone as well, di ba, is often respectful, no? The uses of courtesy titles like sir, ma'am, a doctor, lawyer baka ano, attorney or sa na diha no ng mga courtesy titles, whatever courtesy titles you may have there. So present ni siya nga mga courtesy titles sa consultative. So it became casual pod class if the relationship is long-standing or friendly. So we have examples here, no, the local TV broadcast, an annual physical examination, then a service provider like a plumber. So another good example class no is kaning have the dentist and patient, lawyer and client, then teacher and student. Also put nabilong po na siya sa consultative. Then there is also a relation asa ni police, then criminals for example, then sa may lain na relationship ha. Manager, then workers baka niya or subordinates. No, so di ba there is a relationship, but one is professional in terms of specializing something. Di ba na ay teacher, di ba ang teacher mas professional sa student, then lawyer mas professional siya sa client, then di ba na sila yung relationship, but one class is professional in terms of specializing something. So that's what we call consultative. Okay? Ano siya consultative. Ang usa, nag-specialize din siya something. Or yes. Formal po ang use of way of or having a conversation with this one. If dili mo close sa imuhang kasturya or yeah, for example no katong dentist baka or doctor baka og kanang patient, diba ang ang patient pangutan na magina siya sa iyahang doctor nga kanang dok unsa day nahitabo dok, what happened to me, unsa may angay na kung buhaton na ni akong sakit, di ba? And then the doctor will simply give the answer to the patient nga mao ni siya dapat sulti, ano ikuan iyang buhaton di ay rather. So mo na siya no open kuan siya, open formal siya. But again, class, if the relationship is long-standing or friendly, kana lang close na, once close na good kaayo mo sa imuhang doctor, pwede na ka mag-crack og jokes, pwede na ka makigchika-chika sa imong doctor no once close na pud kaayo mo sa imong doctor. But since kung kuan lang gani, dili lang gani kung moingon nga close, so formal gid ang ato ang way sa pag-approach sa usa ka tawo nga nag-specialize og something, knowledge about something. Okay? So that's what we call again consultative. Then we have also here, no, this is actually the common among all, which is the casual. So kani is used when they are with friends, close acquaintances, coworkers, and family. So the way how you talk to your friends, no, the way uh the way how you talk to your neighbors, no, it is just the same as how you talk to your very close to you, for example. So kaning casual, you are using a certain colloquial words or informal words diri sa casual. So it is uses with friends, acquaintances, co-workers, and as well as family. Like for example, no, a birthday party, a backyard barbecue. So as you can see here in the picture, no, very casual lang gid guys, no, mag happy happy, makig banding-banding or makimarites for urksahay no kanang mga group. So kanang inyong friends diha, mga acquaintances diha, inyong classmates na belong na siya diri sa casual, the way how you communicate to your friends. So casual na no. Then we also have here class intimate. So kaning intimate, this is reserved for special occasions, usually between only two people and open in private. So kaning intimate register is very personal. and also private conversation ni siya or communication ang mahitabuanin niya. Kay this is reserved man especially in special occasion, no? Like an inside joke baka between two college friends or a word whispered in a lover's ear. So that is an intimate relationship. So the way how you talk to your very close friend, like your boyfriend baka your mama, your close best friend, no? Na ma-share na nimo niya ang imong secrets, and then unsa pa na niya unsa na imong mga share niya imong mga problems in terms of kanang money problems baka financial problems, so pwede nimo siyang ma-share sa imong best friend. So namoy intimacy together. Okay, unlike sa kaning casual, like casual lang bitaw kag makik-talk lang sa iya ha, dili ka pwede maka-share sa iyang problem or hindi ka pwede makashare niya sa imong problem kay basin makuyawan ka ba nga basin iyang ipanabi niya. So casual lang imuhang the way how you talk to him or the way how you deliver your unsa na speech sa iya ha. So casual, very casual lang. Unlike sa intimate kanang mao man siya, you have an intimacy man so pwede na ka maka-share. So man na siya kalahian sa casual o sa intimate. So again, we have 5 distinct registers no. So we have frozen, formal, consultative, casual, and as well as intimate. Okay? So mana siya no? Ang 5 distinct registers. Okay, so next class, since we already know naman what are those varieties of language, di ba natin Creole, Pidgin, minority, regional, and indigenous variety, and also language registers, we have the formal, the so to, intimate, the casual, the frozen, and also the consultative, di ba? But now we will proceed na to the 2 forms of spoken and written language, di ba? We have man 2 forms of I mean 2 forms of language, which is the spoken and then the written language. So when we say written class, of course no common sense, or obviously it's all about writing good. Walang spoken, so it's all about having a dialogue baka ha, or having a conversation with someone, or the way how you talk or communicate to other people. But how do we really how can we differentiate these 2 forms, no? These 2 forms of language. Well, actually, no, there are 2 factors that distinguish spoken and written language. So first off, no, we have here the actual situation or context. And second put is the purpose of communication. So it differs the class between the context and then the purpose of communication. Okay, so context, so this refers to the situation or the setting baka, no, in which the communication occurs or where the communication takes place. So mo na siya ang context. While ang kaning purpose, so unsa may purpose sa communication? So mo ni siya 2 factors nga ma-distinguish or ma-differentiate or yes, ma-differentiate nato ang spoken o ang written language. Okay, so let's proceed first with the spoken language. So what are the characteristics of spoken language? So first characteristics class no is spoken language is mostly maintained in a form of dialogue. So what do we mean by dialogue? So dialogue plus no, well actually it comes from a Greek word which means dia. So it means two, diba? So therefore, ang dialogue, so it involves 2 participants or 2 parties. Okay? So, una siya ang what we call dialogue. So, of course, no, in spoken language, kung nagitay ka storya, nagitay at katubangan, nagitay ka dialogue. Okay? 2 participants, yun ang ato ang makita when we are having a conversation or when we are communicating to someone. Of course, in a form of dialogue, siya. Okay? Then, another pod class, kana bitang the way how you talk to your mama, the way how you talk to your classmates, di ba? It is in the form of dialogue man. Okay, so, mana siya no? First characteristic of spoken language, it is mostly maintained in a form of dialogue. Okay, next pod, spoken language utilizes human voice and all kinds of gestures. Okay, no, so, correct yun, again, in spoken language, di ba, you can express man all your feelings. diba? Your emotion. Then you can also use the tone of your voice, which is the high register baka of your voice. Kung masuko ka, o maglagot ka, diba? Imong pakusgon, imong tingog nga, diba, syagit jud ka, diba? That is the tone of your voice, which is in a high register. Then also put your tone of voice in a low register. Like for example, maluoy ka, diba? Musang ipauyon-uyon ang imong voice, no? Mang imong tone sa imong voice. Ay masag kay naluoy ka sa usa ka tawo pero imong voice is nasuko or in a way nga nasuko jud ka or pinakusog guys tanan, no? So dapat ato pong ipailin-ilinon ang ato ang tingog or atong voice quality, atong i-adjust atong voice quality. So all of that class is actually part of spoken language, no? Atong voice, okay? And also gestures was included. So the gestures that you are using while you are talking to other people, no? And also we can add man, diba? We can add facial expressions when we are talking to other people. Like, for example, na siya gichika nato nga, uy, abi nimo si kuan baya akay ka na kuan kaayo ana something like that, blah 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 sa panadiha. Wala ko hala mao ba? Ay mura kag di makatuo ba, diba? Maka-express ko, hala mao ba? Mura kag na shock. No, mura kag na shock nga hala di lagi ko katuo sa imong gisulti. Okay, so maka-express ta sa ato ang facial expression di sa spoken language. Okay? Then, ang atong movements sa atong eyebrows, like pinaisa-isa sa kilay, tando-tando, ang kana-ana rin ka, no? Well, there's someone talking in front of you, so magsige lang kag tando-tando sa iyang gisulti. Okay? Nga uyon kay kasi ang sulti tando lang ka. Okay? Then, kuan put eye movement, no? Or eye to eye. You maintain eye to eye contact when you are speaking to another people. Of course, mag-maintain jud that eye to eye contact, and also we should avoid jud nga dili ta mo tan-aw sa ato ang kasturya kay if we do that, if kanang dili ta mo tan-aw, it's not we're just we're not respecting, no, the person that we are talking tungod kay lahi man nato ang gitan-aw. For example, tan-aw ta og na ni agi baka di ang gwapo or gwapa, bis imuang kasturya, focus kay iyang gistorya, makuha na noon nimo kay nitanaw kas lain. So dapat jud class, you should avoid that one. No? Dapat maintain jud tag eye to eye contact when we are talking to someone. Okay? The next food characteristic, no? It presupposes the presence of an interlocutor. Alright, so what do we mean by the class about interlocutor? Well, interlocutor class, no, so this is simply, no, the person who is engaged in the communication process. So what does it mean? So in spoken language, diba, we can have man the physical appearance of the communicator or sa ato ang kasturya, diba? Like for example karon me, so right now I am physically present and I am talking to you. Okay? So, physically present ko. So, I am the interlocutor or the interviewer baka, for example. Ano siya what we call interlocutor, no? Simply na the person nga imuhang kasturya sa while you're having a conversation. So, that's what we mean by interlocutor. Alright? Next food class is another characteristic. Spoken language is spontaneous but momentary. But okay, what do we mean man by spontaneous? Well, spontaneous class is, di ba, when we are talking, continuous lang or free lang gid ka. Ang ato ang masturya is ma-wander around lang, bisag unsa lang ato ang masturya, mahimo nga storya while we are speaking, di ba? So we can say anything what we really wanted, o sa atong gusto diha i-add sa atong isulti, pwede ginato ng buhaton, di ba? So, wala siya, no? Then also wala po tayo formats nga gina-follow when we are speaking. Wala tayo format nga gina-follow, no? Wala tayo grammar. Wala tayo usa ni nga wala tayo grammar nga gi-use po. Any grammars may balag grammatically incorrect pa kadiha, no? It is allowed lang in spoken language as long as nasabtan sa imuhang kastoryang imuhang gimin. Okay? Okay ra kay na unlike written language nga naadjay formal, naadjay format sa written language, napod siya what do you call this one? Napod siya grammar nga i-follow when you are writing, di ba? Usahay kay dili usahay kay marong na ta tungod sa ato ang grammatically incorrect nga gipangutang dito sa ato ang essays baka ha. Okay? So mo na siya, no? Ang characteristic of spoken language. Then in spoken language pod wala po tay script. There's no script. Unlike written na ay script no when we are writing na tay script, pwede may mo script ay may kahimo ta og script when we are writing, but in spoken wala script. Then spoken as well spoken language as well class is momentary. Okay, so when we talk or when we say about when we talk about momentary, no, so it vanishes or dali ra kay mawala. Okay, so because diba after you spoke, all of the words that came out into your mouth, it vanishes or mawala dayon siya. Diba? So it's gone. So sometimes ganito makalimot ka kung unsa ganito yung istorya, unsa ganito yung istorya amiga, or dong or dai or brad, unsa ganito yung istorya, unsa tayong giingon nakalimot man ko eh. So kani akong magipastorya karon so kad ganihan nakalimot na gani sad ko sa to ang gipang istorya, wala to na ako nakuan. Wala na ko siya ingon nga gikapi. So katong gipastorya na ako ganiha nagwonder tanan ako ang mga gipang spoke diri. Okay, so nalimtan gato na ako. Okay, so that's what we mean by momentary. It vanishes. So wala tay physical record in our conversation unless pud siguro class no if kanang gituyo gid nato nga mag-video ka mag-video ta while we are conversing or while when we are having a conversation baka to someone else. So kada siya pwede gina siya nagit physical record. But like said kay permit ta mag-record no well permit well when talk ta sa other people natay nagitay dalhon nga kuan nga sa ni camera ba kaha or audio ba kaha no hindi po na siya pwede, so that's why spoken language is spontaneous but momentary. Okay, next characteristic we have here no is it widely uses intensifying words. So what do we mean by intensifying words? Well, in our speech, di ba, we have intensifiers. Okay? Kaning intensifiers, mo na siya words nga mga adjectives such as for example mga coarse words, no? Mga intense nga words, mga bad words baka for example, di ba? Pwede gid na to ma-use sa spoken language. And aside food class, in spoken language, unsa ni? The grammatically incorrect, as what I've said earlier, the grammatically incorrect words is also acceptable because, as what I've said, makasabot naman ta sa tao. For example, grammatically incorrect iyang giingon, so masabtan na nato sa iyang gi pasabot. Do grammatically incorrect lang iyang giingon. Okay, so wala siya now. That's what the fifth bullet means. So we are free to use intensifiers compared to written language. Kaysa written language, di man ta pwede mag-use og mga curse words or mga bad words. Di ta pwede mag-use og mga unsa na ang mga words diha lang sa written. Well, in spoken language, pwede na to siya ma-use. The next good last characteristics now we have here is characterized by the insertion of fill-ups. So in other words, class, kaning fill-ups, this is what we call fillers. Okay, mga fillers na siya. So what are those fill-ups? So example name mo, ano? Kaning mga well, mga or kanang mga kanang-kanang, kuan, manggod ma'am, kuan, or kanang kuan, manggod te. Mo na siya, no? Mo na siya, that's actually the classic characteristics of spoken language class kanang mga word na to nga kanang, mga kuan, mga mga okay, no? So we cannot avoid that one, no? When, especially if you're talking in front of a lot of people, or if you're talking baka sige kag storya, sometimes so di man na nato malikay no sahay makaingon jud ta kay makalimot ta usahay sa tong isulti, diba? So mo na siya ang classic characteristics sa spoken language, di gid na nato ma-avoid. Okay? But in written language class, there are no fill ups, no? Dili jud ta pwede mag-use og or sa pa na diha kanang kuan di na pwede di na allowed sa kaning written language hindi siya pwede sa written language because again in written language namatay format or we followed a certain format man unlike spoken language nga walay format. Okay, so those are the characteristics of spoken language. We have here no six it's six characteristics of spoken language. Okay, now let's proceed class with the characteristics of written language. So what are the characteristics and traits of written language? Alright, so the first one is we have here, it presupposes the absence of an interlocutor. Okay, so if we may recall, or you may recall ganiha, di ba? as what I've said about in spoken language, it actually has the presence of an interlocutor. While diri sa written language presupposes kuno the absence of an interlocutor. So nga naman, anong it presupposes man the absence of an interlocutor, ganun wala man siya presence of an interlocutor. Because in written language, nakasuwat raman siya, di ba? Wala, the interlocutor don't need or dili na kinahanglan ng interlocutor tungod kay di man siya physically present. Okay? So lain masad kaayo no nga kanang ang atong papel ato ang kastoryahon, di ba di masad pwede. So mo na siya. No, there is an absence good of an interlocutor when we talk about written language. Okay, next good class characteristic we have here no is written language is maintained in the form of a monologue. Okay, so ganiha, ang spoken language maintained in a form of dialogue man. But this one, characteristic of written language is in the form na po siya of monologue because, di ba, we just barely read man what is on the paper man, di ba? Lain masad kaayo, di ba, nga kanang makiktok nimo ang paper literally, di ba? So, that's why it is good in the form of monologue. So we can clearly understand that the form is just a monologue. Okay? The next good characteristic we have here, class, it is more carefully organized and more explanatory. So nga nakaha nga more explanatory and organized man ang written language. The reason why, class, is it because the goal manggod of the writer, or for example, your teacher baka ha, for example, um, kaning sa module, no? Kaning sa module. So, as we can observe, the module is actually more carefully organized and as well as explanatory. Tungod kay ang goal sa imong teacher or sa writer baka ha, they wanted that you, the student or the reader, understand unsay naka-write or what is written sa module, no? What is unsay nakasuwat dito sa module because again, there is no presence man of interlocutor in the written language. So that's why gid class tarungon gid na sa tarungon gid na sa teacher og instruct step by step ang paghimo sa module. Then explain pod more details para dili maglibog ang students. Okay? Or ang reader baka for example. So that's why it's more carefully organized good and more explanatory. Kay wala may interlocutor. Okay ra untag na interlocutor no. Pero kung na interlocutor pwede naman ta mangutana mo ingon ta nga kanang ma'am unsa unday ni siya mo si pasabot ani ma'am imong buot pasabot aning kani imong instructions diri. Di ba? So pwede ra ta mapakapangutana sa interlocutor. But since in written language there is an absence man of interlocutor, so that's why again it is more carefully organized and explanatory. Okay, the next good characteristic, class, it is able to live forever with the idea it expresses. Okay, so yes, no, so naa dito forever sa written language, sana all kay naay forever. Unlike sa spoken language, wala forever sa spoken language bitaw. Ang written language na siya forever tungod kay pwede ra man ninyo taguon or pwede ra ninyo i-keep ang inyong mga writings, di ba? Inyong mga journals, inyong mga diaries, baka for example, inyong mga essays or sa pakana diha ang mga suwat ninyo, mga love letters na inyong nadawat, pwede ra kaayo na ninyo i-keep. Unlike sa spoken language, di ba, dili man nato makip ang ato mga istorya because as what I've said earlier, spoken language is spontaneous and momentary. Okay, so it easily vanishes. Dali ra mawala kung naato ang mga gipanggawas nga storya. Unlike sa written, nagitay personal record, naatay mga suwat, mga books for example, nga mabasa nato dito, no? Kasi mga information, mabasa gyapon nato balik. So that's why it is able to live forever with the idea it expresses ang written language. The next good class, no, the writer has an opportunity to correct and improve it. Okay, correct. So when we are writing, di ba natay Grammarly, nasa tay autocorrect na sa Microsoft Word. So if you wanted to paraphrase po no, napod tay Killbot. Ganahan tag nga i-paraphrase ang ato ang words or atong English, natay Killbot no. We wanted to improve our essays, so pwede ra gid tang mo use ana nila nga mga kanang platforms. But when we engage in spoken language class, for example, nakasulti ka og bati or nakapasakit ka sa imong friend maka for example nga mga words or sakit kay nga pulong sa imong words like sa imong friends nga mga words, di ba, dili na dato pwede mairisa nga to ang gisulti, di ba? So how I wish no, so how we wish no nga may tagnasad og tay ka ng autocorrect oy ang kanang unsa ni kaning spoken language para kato ako mga gipangsulti nga mga bad towards my friends or towards my mama or towards my papa baka kaya pwede na ako siyang makorek. But sadly, wala man siya. Only in written language man siya, di ba? Na ay autocorrect. So, na siya, no? The writer has an opportunity to improve her writings good in written language, unlike spoken language. Kay, di naman to nato mabalikan ang ato ang gisulti nga bati or sakit nga pulog sa iyaha. Unlike as, naman tayo giingon, no? Maka-forgive ta but dili ta maka-forget sa unsay ilang gisulti. Maka-forgive ta, makapasaylo ta pero ang ilang gisulti di gid nato malimtan. Dili gid nato ma-forget kung unsay ilang gisulti nga sakit. Okay? All right? The next good class, last characteristic, no? It bears greater volume of responsibility than its counterpart. Okay? So in written language, dako gyud kaayo ang atong responsibility diri. Tungod kay there is a certain format man, namatay certain format na we're going to follow when we are writing, di ba? Unlike in spoken language, we can speak anything what we want. Wala tay format nga gi-follow. And aside po, we wanted po to make sure nga ang ato ang gi-write is sabtan gid siya, no? Masabtan gid siya sa ato ang reader. So that's why no mauging dapat organize or more explanatory ang ato ang gi-write para easily masabtan lang gid siya sa mga mubasa sa ato ang writings. Alright, so that's it no. So that's the 6 characteristics, 1, 2, 3, 4, yes, 6 gapon characteristics of written language that dili siya same sa spoken language. So I guess that's all no sa ato ang discussion. So if you have questions class, feel free to message me in our group chat. So I will entertain your questions about our discussion sa karon kung sa inyo ang nalipkan. Okay, so that's all for today's discussion and thank you for listening. Bye-bye!